Before you get comfortable, before you turn the lights down or pull the blanket a little closer, ask yourself this. When winter makes the world silent, how do you know you're truly alone? Snow hides footprints. Cold preserves secrets. And sometimes, what follows you in winter doesn't leave tracks at all. The first winter after my uncle died, I stayed alone at his mountain cabin to sort through his things. It was the kind of place that disappeared under snow every December, a single wooden structure surrounded by endless white and tall, black trees. No neighbors, no cell signal, just wind, creaking wood, and the promise of isolation I thought I needed. The road up there had already begun to vanish by the time I arrived. Snow fell steadily, soft but relentless, swallowing the tire tracks behind me. By nightfall, the cabin felt sealed off from the rest of the world, like it had been buried on purpose. Inside, the air smelled of old pine and dust. The fireplace worked, barely, and the heat came in slow, uneven waves. That first night, I slept lightly, woken again and again by the sound of branches brushing the walls. Or at least, that's what I told myself. Around 2 a.m., I heard footsteps on the porch. Slow, careful, too deliberate to be wind that I lay frozen, listening as the steps moved from one end of the porch to the other. They paused near the front door. I waited for a knock that never came. Instead, there was a dragging sound, like something heavy being pulled across wood. Then silence. When morning came, I opened the door and found long marks carved into the porch, parallel lines etched deep into the frozen wood. There were no footprints in the snow, not leading up to the porch, not leading away, just the marks, and the unsettling feeling that whatever made them hadn't needed to walk. The second night was worse. I heard my uncle's voice calling my name from the tree line. I hadn't heard that voice in years. It sounded tired, cold. When I looked out the window, I saw a shape standing between the trees, tall and wrong, its outline blurring with the falling snow. It didn't move closer. It didn't need to. It just waited, knowing the cold would eventually push me outside that I left at sunrise, abandoning everything. When I reached the road, I looked back and saw new marks on the cabin door, tally marks. As if it had been counting nights. Years later, the cabin is gone, burned down after a supposed electrical fire. But every winter, when snow falls heavy and the world goes quiet, I dream of footsteps on a porch I'll never stand on again. The second story happened during the worst blizzard my town had seen in decades. I was driving home late, the highway nearly empty, snow whipping across the road so thick it felt like driving through static. My car heater struggled, blowing air that never quite got warm. Every few miles, I passed abandoned vehicles half buried in snowbanks, their doors frozen open like they'd been left in a hurry. Yet that's when I saw the man standing on the side of the road that he wore no coat. Just a thin jacket, soaked dark with melting snow. He raised his hand as I slowed, his face pale and strangely calm. Against my better judgment, I stopped. He leaned down to the window and asked for a ride, his breath fogging the glass instantly. The moment he got into the passenger seat, the temperature dropped. The windshield frosted from the edges inward, crawling like ice veins. He didn't shiver. He didn't blink. He just stared straight ahead, as if he knew exactly where we were going. I tried making conversation, but he didn't respond. The radio crackled, then died. After a few minutes, I noticed something that made my stomach twist. His clothes weren't wet anymore. They were stiff, white with frost, as if he'd been frozen solid and only recently thawed. Without warning, he turned to me and asked, very quietly, "Can you stop here?" We were in the middle of nowhere. Just snow, trees, and darkness. I said no. His expression changed then, not angry, not threatening, disappointed. The windows iced over completely, blocking my view of the road. The engine began to stall. Panicking, I slammed the brakes. The car skidded sideways, spinning until it finally stopped. When I looked to the passenger seat, it was empty. The door was still closed. No footprints led away from the car. Just one handprint on the inside of the window, slowly fading as the glass warmed. When the storm cleared the next morning, the news reported multiple accidents on that stretch of highway. One body was found frozen just off the road. The photo showed a man in a thin jacket, his face calm, eyes open, as if he'd simply been waiting. Every winter since then, when I drive at night and the snow starts to fall too hard, I keep my doors locked. Because sometimes, the cold isn't just weather. Sometimes, it's looking for a ride.